this. Just gonna go back into the hallway. It's hard to know when it goes live, so I'm just gonna, there we go. I think we're getting there. And seems like it's working. So here's today's room. I'm just gonna pop it out to the Facebook group real quick. Going live. Next to our group, a deep dive, miracle deep dive, morning coffee with a course in miracles. All right, so this is mostly run on the phone. We start at 6:30 and it is 6:26 right this minute. We've been setting up for, oh my goodness, it feels like a month or so to kind of get geared up to be ready for, I'm battling here a little bit, to kind of get us from just the Clubhouse live group when we're there and all the way into an area where we've got two-way communication even happening offline. And lots of people are into ACIM more than I guessed when I tried back in April and kind of fell on my face to do this in Clubhouse. But when I came back like 2 months later, there were thousands of people here. And so I found the biggest group, started just coming in and making this meeting once a morning. And then people started showing up. And then a little bit more clarity happened. A friend of ours named George, ours is the hour, in this case, is me and my dad, Bob. We're live on Zoom as well. I can't seem to get that to go into the room because I've got full screen here. So, anyway, bottom line is, if I can cut this part out, I probably will. But just to set the stage, we started reading the Miracle Principles in the beginning of the ACIM group, ACIM book. So for the last 5 years or so, my dad and I have been reading just about every morning. We've missed a handful, but reading this book as a way to get free of the pain of life. Like, it's just tough. Life can be really tough. Going through the tough times and hopefully ending up on times that are better, times where can help others get out of troubled times. The whole world, the last 2020 was a tough year for everybody. But when I start out my day in the right way, I have a really good chance to have a better day. That has worked over and over and over again. All right, Papa, I'm going to get in here and start this room. I've worked my way back to 33. I thought that was it, but I think we actually started with 33 yesterday. I think we're actually on 35. So we'll kick it off with 35 when we get going. It's totally fine too.
Okay. 6:29.
All righty. All right. Do I have to kick you out, or are you going to get off of the audio? You got to get out of audio on Zoom. Leave the audio on Zoom. You want me to put the picture up again? Remember this? Right here? Leave computer audio. Yep, you muted yourself, but you have to leave the audio or else you'll get the echo on your computer, not on your phone, Papa. On your computer. On your computer. I can't tell. It looks like you're working on your phone, but I can't tell. All right, I got to start the room. Come on, man. Right next to the little microphone. I'm going to mute my TV here. Hopefully that'll stop it. Every morning it says poor connection. Try to find a stronger signal every single morning. And then for some reason it gets it. Good morning, Kaylin. How are you doing?
Good morning, Lee. Good morning, Bob. Waiting for the boss.
Oh my goodness gracious. Did we wait to the last second this time, didn't we?
Hey, it was perfect. Yes.
Oh man, today's Thursday. I can't believe it's gone through this week so quick. Tomorrow morning about this time, I'm going to be hopping in the car. So we're not going to meet tomorrow or probably the next day because we'll be down in Texas. I'm just not sure where we stand, but if it works out, we'll show up. Yeah. I know Dad's here. I can see him talking. He has still not left the audio in Zoom. So if he joins, we're going to get a terrible echo.
I just didn't get into the Clubhouse to talk.
You did not leave the audience.
Good morning. So Lee, right now it's really funny. I see this little picture of you. I mean of Dean. But yeah. I remember when you were that age.
You do not.
Yes, I do.
Get out.
We went to Winston-Salem
really?
For a celebration of, I forget which holiday, some little holiday. We went to an unusual church, the Moravian church, I think it was.
Okay. And oh my gosh, I know what you're talking about. I remember what you're talking about. They had cookies.
Who wouldn't sit still? So you just took off from us and you went right up to where the minister was, and he said to himself, looking at you, what's going on here? And this little boy, 7 years old, went up and said hi to the whole congregation. And we were mortified at the moment.
I wasn't 7.
Also laughing. And you were laughing. And everybody all of a sudden started laughing. And the minister finally said, and a child shall lead the congregation. Leave. I'm sorry, lead. Yes, lead the congregation. And at that point, everybody just cracked up. And here's this little boy, Lee Andron, 7 years old, and everybody in the congregation was focused on what you were doing.
Oh my goodness!
Not anything else until it was over. It was hilarious. He actually had you sit down on the dais, and you were quiet. It just came to me because I see Lee with a picture of Dean leading this Clubhouse meeting this morning. And that all came back, and it was one of the funniest moments with you as a child. It was just, Lee, you had your own mind at that time, and maybe you were just practicing to lead a spiritual group then. And there you have it.
Okay. Well, I can tell you this: I don't feel quite as connected to that as you might, but it's still a beautiful story. Happy Thursday, everybody. We were just starting to think through what's going to happen, and tomorrow I'm going to be running for the airport at this time, so I may not be here tomorrow, but
me too.
For today, I thought we were on 33, but as I went back and looked at it, I realized I've read 33 for the last 3 days running. And so today, making it all the way to where we are, 35. And that one is, miracles are the way in which minds that serve the Spirit unite with Christ for the salvation or release of all God's creations. And I'll say, good morning, Lilia, or good afternoon, Lilia. Happy lunchtime. And good morning, George. And good afternoon, Kaylin. And I have managed to go live on YouTube. So I am recording it. And we got right into the miracle principles like we wanted to. And I feel like things are awesome. So I just want you guys to jump in and say hi when you want to. And then I'll get back in and keep reading.
Good morning. It would be great when I stop pressing on my face to unmute and remember it's on the lower right.
Oh, I'm not the only one.
Oh my God, I keep doing that. It's driving me crazy.
I know.
It's like, come on, George. It's not that hard.
George, we were just talking just before you appeared, and Lee and I both will not be available tomorrow morning because we're going to be on the way to the airport. And the only question I have is can you just come into the clubhouse? All other things being equal, would you be willing to just take this room and be the moderator? Is that possible? I don't know. And I also know that we're not supposed to talk about these things now.
Exactly. Lily, how's your lunch? What are you having for lunch today?
This is necessary because, you know, now we have something to discuss for tomorrow. You are going. It's all right.
Okay. Business at the beginning of the meeting then. Okay. All right.
Well, let's get it over with. George, can you do it tomorrow?
Here's how it works. So the way we make one of these meetings is there's a, when you get out to the hallway, there's a little calendar up at the top. And you have to go into the calendar and make a new meeting. And anybody who's a member of our group can make a new meeting. And once you do that, you pick the people and you pick who's in it and you pick what time it is and stuff like that. And that's how you set this stage so that there's a room to be there when you arrive. So if you feel like doing it, I can set one up for you, make you kind of the moderator. Well, I think no matter what, whoever sets it up still has to be there because they become the default moderator and then they have to make the other people moderators. Like Kalen can show up because I made him a featured guest, like Lily and George. You're all featured guests. And Tamara, I would make you one. I don't know if I've actually, it kind of happen. They bubble up to the top. So anyway, as you're putting them together and you do a couple of them, it makes it easier.
My vote is when you guys aren't here, there's no meeting.
All right, that's fine too. You know what? Life goes on. Morning, Tyreen.
Okay, if that changes later, it'll change later, but maybe now we can go into the meeting and we can pick it up later on.
I can definitely commit to Tuesday when we're back here. Then I'll probably set one up to, make sure that we get started back up on Tuesday. That'll be the first day that I know I'll be landed and it'll all be cool. And then if we can make it happen, we will. I'll have my stuff with me.
Any day you guys are off, I get to sleep, so.
Morning, Tyreen.
Ulterior motive.
Hope you're getting ready for a great day. We were just trying to figure out what we're going to do. I think we're probably going to be off for the next couple of days as we're traveling down to see my father's oldest grandchild get married, which is amazing because we really thought his oldest grandchild was my daughter, who's 11. And wow, it's still nuts. Okay.
So this means like Saturday, Sunday, so we will.
Well, we'll be down in Texas. Dad and I will be down in Texas, but we'll be down in Texas together. And we'll probably be up and bored and probably make it happen. But I don't want to commit to it because I just don't know what's going to happen yet.
Also, the time is different than you and I.
No, I'm just telling like when will be Wednesday, next Wednesday will be available, or like when you have done with them.
Yes, I know next Tuesday, where I fly back on Monday, so I'll be here in my office on Tuesday like normal, and I can definitely make sure it happens then. So I'll put that one in the calendar after this meeting, and then we've got that one set, and you guys will see it. It'll pop up automatically for you anyway.
One last point, Lee, it'll be 5:30 for us in Texas.
Yep.
When this normally starts. So we might be able to make this happen. Stay tuned. We'll see. We'll see you tomorrow. Not, and you'll know. Until then, we're going to be.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Actually, here, a better way maybe of putting it is that we've got the Facebook group where we can put this information in and make it a lot more plain. So as I figure out how to communicate better, I definitely will keep doing the stuff through Clubhouse. I love the inspirational place that this is. And so what I really wanted to do was kind of at least have a place where we could discuss it. And I'll do that over in the Facebook thing. I'll put that link into the next calendar entry. If you want to join us, actually, George did a great job of naming the group, and we got a URL that's super short. It's just, oh shoot, I have to remember what it is too. Let me make sure I get it right and don't quote the wrong thing. That would be that. Pardon me. I'm gonna slow down. It's a Miracle Deep Dive, morning coffee with A Course in Miracles, and it's just facebook.com/groups/ACIM deep. So I'll add that to the description to try and make it easy to find. And we can bring the energy down a minute, and I'll start back in with Miracle Principle 35 out of the book we read, A Course in Miracles, in just a moment. Everything else seems to be working fine. All right. Happy Thursday, everybody. Miracle Principle 35. I'm on page 24 of the Purple Book. Miracles are the way in which minds that serve the Spirit unite with Christ for the salvation or release of all of God's creations. There are certain advantages in being a psychologist. Let me just set the stage just for those who recently joined us, and welcome. I'm reading from this book, and this is part of the book where Jesus is talking to us. And so this is literally Jesus the Christ kind of talking through a lady named Helen Schuckman. She was the scribe, and they kind of copied this stuff down. And this is part of the book where they just kind of, he's talking directly to us. So he says there are certain advantages, and he's talking actually to us through Helen Schuckman, who's a psychologist. She's the one actually doing the scribing. So think of that as a filter. There are certain advantages in being a psychologist. A major one is understanding of projection and the extent of its results. Possession is closely related to projection. Lucifer could literally be translated as light bearer. He literally projected himself from heaven. Projection still has this hurling connotation because it involves hurling something you do not want and regard as dangerous and frightening to someone else. This is the opposite of the golden rule. And having placed this rule upside down, the reverse of miracles or projection follows automatically. The correction lies in accepting what is true in yourself by bringing all that you are into the light. One of the major problems with miracle workers is that they're so sure that what they're doing is right because they know it stems from love, that they frequently do not pause to let me establish my limits. While they do what comes from me, they often cannot be induced to ask me each time whether I want them to perform this particular miracle. If they did, they would not perform any miracles that could not get through constructively and would thus save themselves unnecessary strain. Instead, some burn themselves out with indiscriminate miracles, and to this extent do not fulfill their own purpose. The answer is to never perform a miracle without asking me if you should. This spares you from exhaustion. Just because miracles are expressions of love, it doesn't follow that they will always be effective. And I'm the only one who can perform miracles indiscriminately because I am the at-one-ment atonement. You have a role in the atonement, which I will dictate to you. This is going to wrap up this section here. So I would pause at the end here, but I just wanted to kind of get it all out. So bear with me for just a couple of more moments. And oh boy, I thought that was the end. But actually there's 3 or 4 more pages. So I'm going to pause there for a minute because it's already said a lot. So let me just pause for a minute. And welcome, Shamista. Oh, sorry if I got your name incorrect. But I did want to welcome you guys.
Sushmita. I just said I'm close. This this particular last paragraph that you read about asking him with each miracle has really come home. I remember, probably a week or so ago, when a little bit more than that, when we read through this also, it's very powerful because when you have a few miracles kind of come through you, you can easily get into a habit, and your ego will take over and say, hey, look at me, I'm a big old miracle worker, and I can do this. So then all of a sudden there's a mindset that says, I'm doing it. And Jesus here is simply telling us it doesn't quite work that way because you're not me. I have to help you with each one. So check in with me before you are so sure that what you're doing is really on the right track. Yesterday, Lee and I both were involved in a particular business thing that took, in both cases, actually two of them, it was very difficult to get just to establish the Zoom session, which I think is a miracle anyway, because you can talk to a bunch of people from East to West Coast, for example, in that particular situation. But it was kind of difficult. We still got through it, and we still made a good overall understanding between the people involved. But it was very difficult, and I see this now and think it would have been a little bit better if Lee and I had just taken even a moment to recognize this paragraph. Never to perform a miracle without asking Jesus if we should. This spares us from exhaustion, and it was exhausting yesterday. So I take this, as I always do, very personally. Every day is a new day. Every day I can learn anew what the Course in Miracles book tells me is the way to go, and get it more clearly. It's a constant, continuing upgrading of our understanding and being able to do it better. And this one is key because it's so easy to get stuck in that. Anybody else have an experience similar to that? Okay.
And it's okay if you don't. And it's nice to have you all here. I can continue to read through this, and I think I just appreciate this perspective because Christ's perspective is higher than mine right now. All right.
36.
Remember, you already have a principle about the involuntary nature of miracles. We've also established the fact that everything involuntary belongs under Christ's control, not yours. Under Christ's control, miracles replenish the doer as well as the receiver. Miracle workers must learn Christ's control to replace their former habits, which did produce scarcity in place of abundance. From errors of this kind, the sense of deprivation is inevitable, but very easily corrected.
I'm glad to hear that.
Piece of cake, right? Possession really means not under Christ's control, thus making the mind vulnerable to projection. The idea of earth-bound entities entering into bodies really refers to being taken over by your own earthbound thoughts. This is demon possession. After all, Lucifer fell, but he was still an angel. He is thus the symbol for humanity. Atonement is the knowledge that the belief that angels can fall is false. It's true that the mind can make projections as well as miracles, but it is not true that projections are real. Any psychologist should understand this. This is what is meant by the truth shall set you free. You need to understand the very important difference between Christ's control and Christ's guidance. Christ-controlled miracles are part of the atonement, But Christ's guidance is personal, and it leads to personal salvation. The impersonal nature of miracles is an essential ingredient because this enables me to control their distribution as I see fit. Christ's guidance, on the other hand, leads to the highly personal experience of revelation. This is why it involves personal choice. A guide does not control by definition, but he does direct, leaving the following up to you. Lead us not in temptation means guide us out of our own errors. Dad, would you check that footnote 68, please? The note that the word is lead, not order. Excuse me, note, the word is lead, not order, right? Lead us not out of temptation, not order us out of temptation. Take up thy cross and follow me should be interpreted to mean recognize your errors and choose to abandon them by following my guidance. When you are afraid of possession, you know what? I'm going to pause right there. I remember footnote 69 now. This is how we got all the way into the cameos yesterday by the third half hour that we were on this call. So I know we've been through this once before, but I do remember that yesterday some good stuff came up at about footnote 69. So I'm going to pause there for a moment and let you guys jump in. Or not, that's okay. I'm just talking into a black hole. I can keep reading too. All good.
Well, I do want to say something.
Okay.
I was not prepared, I'm sorry to say, with the book open. I now have it open. But I wonder, our whole premise in this room is that going back through the principles of miracles to help us understand more and more deeply the whole universe of miracles, to understand and be able to spot miracles and understand what's going on, and even if we're not doing it perfectly, how to do it a little bit better next time. This is great training for us, and even though a lot of this is now becoming more and more familiar, we've been through it a few times, I'm loving it because, as I just mentioned a moment ago, something that happened to us yesterday, I just got clarity on why we were having some difficulty in that. We still got through it. It's still okay, and I'm feeling good about it. And I'm feeling good that the next time, maybe with a different party or with the same party, we'll be able to do it a little bit better. And isn't that what this is all about?
Yep.
It's being able to do it better by understanding our place in the hierarchy of a miracle. Jesus takes care of all of the details. It's like my letting lead, as if I had a choice, to control all of the sound and the view and all of the things that are going on so that we can actually just get together in this Clubhouse room, which is by itself an amazing blessing to me.
All right. Blessing to me too.
It is to everybody else as well.
Yeah.
Hearing it again, I'm quick to pick up on that thing. I probably didn't pick up on it well enough first time around. And again, that's the way it is, I think, with all of us as we learn this. So I had some doubts that this is going to get old pretty fast by just going through the miracles. I don't have those doubts anymore. I think that this just can get deeper and deeper and deeper. And that was my first impression. And I'm really glad we're doing it just the way we're doing it. And the footnotes gives us some extra abilities here. So Lee, if you got that the footnote, let's go to that.
Okay, fine. It's a reference.
ACIM deep. ACIM deep. I love it. Yeah.
All right. They're all references back to Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Okay. Number 9. When you're afraid of possession, you need only remember that error cannot really threaten truth, which always can withstand its assaults. Only the error is really vulnerable. The princes of this world are princes only because they're really angels, but they are free to establish their kingdom where they see fit. If you will remember that all princes inherit their power from the Father, the right choice becomes inevitable. The Spirit's in the state of grace forever. Spirit is in the state of grace forever. Your reality is only your spirit. Therefore, you are in a state of grace forever. Atonement undoes all errors in this respect, and thus uproots the real source of fear. If you will check back at the reference to uprooting, you'll understand it better in this context. And there's a footnote. It's hard not to click on a footnote when you've got that kind of bait going there. See, more of a reaction to the formation against the pull, which you recognize is so intense that you're afraid you'll be uprooted. Oh, didn't we go into talking a little bit about how that ego fear happens and stuff like that, and how we're worried about God overwhelming us and our ego is going to be blasted away because God's going to do away with it, and that's why it is scared.
And yet, I'm going to go back to sentence 9 there, or 6, 7, and 8 altogether. That was, again, one of these indented 3 lines. Not everybody has the visible book in front of them, of course. And by doing that, it's that P and Q equation expressed in yet another way. If P, then Q. Then it says P, and then it says therefore Q. It does get funnier each time we say it. But if we can go back to that sentence 8, 7, 8, 9. So I want to look at it from that point of view. It's kind of like a formula. There it is. Spirit is in the state of grace forever. Okay, that's a basic fact. That's what we're told, and we accept that completely. Then it says, your reality is only your spirit. That's Q. Therefore, you are in the state of grace forever. These things are popping up more often, and I think it's a good idea to remember that we get to Q because of P. And it's very powerful. He takes us through that. Spirit is in the state of grace forever. We can accept that easily. Your reality is only your spirit. Oh, thanks for reminding me. And then finally, therefore, you are in the state of grace forever. And I think that's terrific stuff. It's not only what he's saying, but even the way he's saying it and the way that Helen is describing it. So back to you, Lee.
Right on. All right. Well, I'll keep reading.
Don't forget to read also the 71.
Oh, sure. Thanks.
Footnote.
Yeah, because there is the 10, it's atonement undoes all errors in this aspect and thus uproots the real source of fear. And you have a really interesting note there, please.
You're absolutely right, Kaylin. Thank you so much for checking that footnote. That's exactly what I was hoping my dad would do, but you are awesome. That's perfect. In other words, and it's why he brings it up is exactly what I was trying to refer to the other day that it came to me. So thank you again. It's why is our ego so scared of God? It's really one of the fundamental pieces or one of the fundamental perspectives that you get out of this book. Why are we running scared all of the time? Why do we not see the big R reality and get caught up in the what our eyes show us in the small R reality? So this footnote says, in other words, the prospect of being possessed by demons is not the real source of fear. Rather, as the following sentence implies, our real underlying fear seems to be that the pull of the spirit will uproot our separate identity, right? That's our ego, our separate identity, our thought of how we think of ourselves. I'm Lee, for instance. As chapter 2 says, underneath our fear of possession by demons is our real fear of being possessed by or wholly belonging to God. Fear of possession is a perverted expression of the fear of the irresistible attraction of God. And that was a quote from the text in the second chapter. So I guess there in the blue book, there aren't too many places where I can pull out these kinds of nuggets to figure out what is getting in my way from my communion with God in the moment. Because we want to live in this moment. This is the only moment that really counts. We've got, oh my God, I've got ridiculous video setups to be able to do all this other kind of stuff. But really right here in this second, whether you're listening to a recording or we're talking live, it's this moment that we can do something where we can help somebody else. And to try and be open for this moment, we got to get our own self out of the way and allow God to work through us.
What's also amazing about this particular footnote, and I'm really glad you did bring it up also, is that it's talking about the next chapter. And in the blue book, there are no footnotes. There aren't any footnotes. And the idea of footnotes here is that it already assumes that you're coming back to this at least the second or third or 20th time. Because the footnotes can bring you backwards, forwards, it can send you to a cameo, and they're always meant to give you a slightly different inflection on what's being said in the basic text. And this idea of the last thing that's in that footnote, can you put it back again, Lee? It said that the 71, yeah. Fear of possession is a perverted expression of the fear of the irresistible attraction of God. That is yet another way of looking at text in general, because fear of possession, I always automatically think that that's talking about, oh my God, I could be possessed by some kind of external force. And yet that idea that we could be possessed by an external force when it's not perverted is basically the whole atonement. It's the irresistible attraction of God. So every problem that we have as I'm reading this is simply a perversion of the actual truth of whatever the matter is, where for some reason or other, something's perverted, something is standing on its ear, something is upside down. And when that gets straightened out, because we continually check with the Holy Spirit to make sure we're on the right track. Are you sure? Is this where I'm supposed to be? And getting that assurance helps us stay connected to God, connected to everyone, and in full adornment, in full atonement. It's amazing how the footnotes and the text give us a greater dimensional experience of what we're reading. Because this is like your idea, Lee, of this whole thing is holographic. At any one point that we read, we can also get big truths out of it, sometimes a small truth to tweak it, whatever we need at the moment.
I have a question.
Shoot.
Because I don't get it. I mean, I don't really understand. It's saying that our real underlying belief seems to be that the pull of the spirit will uproot our separate identity. So my question will be, the separate identity will be what? The ego or the spirit?
The ego.
Because
Yeah, your sense of who you are as Kalen.
okay, but will uproot will upgrade, right? Will
We're scared.
elevate, right?
we're scared that our individual sense will be completely lost. So if we're a wave in the ocean of God, when our waveness goes away, what are we? You know, I'm Lee, and I'm here, and I'm standing up, and I'm showing up authentically, and I'm an individual, and I'm a father, and I have a car, and I got all these things, and that's my identity. And when I go away, what's left? And what do I matter? And does it matter that I'm here? And why are we here in the first place? And I never asked to be here in the first place. And
Sorry,
all of it.
I get it.
Okay.
The word uproot for my English was because my English is not so good, and I checked in the dictionary, so this is like destroying, uproot.
Yeah. Like think of a rotten tooth that you're uprooting that tooth out to make sure you get rid of all the rot. And Lilia, I'd love your opinion too.
Okay. Thanks. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Again, this is helpful to me, I think. And looking at it from a different perspective and getting outside my own head, I can't do that without your help. So I appreciate it. I'll take the perspective any way I can get it. Well, paragraph number 11 starts talking about spells. So that seems interesting. How about I jump in there? I'm on page 27. Casting spells merely means affirming error. An error is lack of love. When a person projects this lovelessness onto others, he does imprison them, but only to the extent that they reinforce errors that they've already made. These
reinforces the errors.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, they reinforce it. Thank you very much. And we don't want to reinforce the errors, right? So projection definitely leads to reinforcing the misalignment that you already have.
Let me stop you here. In sentence 2 that you just read, I'm going to just read it again. When a person projects this lovelessness onto others, the hate, in other words, or lack of love, he does imprison them, but only to the extent that he reinforces errors that they have already made. So the idea here is, supposedly casting spells does something to someone else. It really doesn't. We don't do it to them, but they do get imprisoned because we're reinforcing how much they lack love for themselves. As we said yesterday, a different promise, there is no real jail. There's only 3 walls to a jail. And every person, whether they have a spell cast on them or not, is still only in a 3-walled jail and can always get out. That's why reading all of these extra explanations of the miracles, we have to remember someone can do, in a sense, or think they're doing a negative miracle at us, casting a spell, but none of it can really hurt us ever. And it reinforces what also the principle said in another place, that we are invulnerable. We are invulnerable to anybody else trying to attack us with words or with thought, because the worst case is simply a 3-walled jail, and that is not a real thing. It's a jail. That's not real. The fact that it's 3 walls at best is real. We're always safe. We're always protected. We're always invulnerable. So I wanted to pick that up and put it into this. So back to you, Lee, on paragraph 11.
Okay, sure. Well, it continues. These distortions make them vulnerable to the curse of others, since they have already cursed themselves. The miracle worker can only bless them, and this undoes the curse and frees the soul from prison. I think in the end, it's forgiveness. So, Miracle Principle 36 is the next one. I don't know about you guys. I can't wait for it. Here we go. Miracles are examples of right thinking. I don't think that's left versus right. Through miracles, reality, contact at all levels. Jesus Christ, I haven't done that one right. Let me try it again. Through miracles, reality contact at all levels becomes strong and accurate, thus permitting correct delineation of interpersonal and intrapersonal and interpersonal boundaries. As a result, the doer sees the truth as God created it. This is what's meant by the pure principle of perspective adjustment. Okay, so this principle is about right thinking. It's about looking at things clearly, I think might be another way of putting it, by looking at things clearly and seeing past our own delusions or our own meaning that we put on things. For instance, let's say there's I used to live at a house with my family and things went to hell, and then driving by that house made me feel all sad. And because I see that area as overlaid with the emotion that I have tied to it, it's a sad area. And as I drive by, it makes me sad. And it took me several years of kind of driving by and letting the emotion kind of go and processing it and doing the stuff that we have to do to kind of get rid of it, so that now it's pretty neutral when I drive by. It doesn't bother me too much. It's close to where I live, so it happens once in a while that I drive by. And it's less of a big deal than it ever was. So through miracles, we kind of get back into reality. Things don't bother us as much. This is the way I see this one. Perspective adjustment.
Also check the footnote 74.
Sure thing. Ooh, it's a big one.
I'll read it. Oh. All right, I'll read it. Reality contact refers to being in touch with reality as opposed to one's phantoms and delusions, which could be in the past or the future, or past or future. Psychosis, for instance, is marked by loss contact.
Papa, we're losing you. Yes, something's wrong with your audio, Dad. Let me just read this for us.
Sorry, I see it. Yeah, go ahead.
Reality contact refers to being in touch with reality as opposed to one's own fantasies and delusions. Psychosis, for instance, is marked by a loss of reality contact. According to the reference here, by making possible strong reality contact, miracles allow us to correctly delineate internal boundaries, perhaps the boundary between body and spirit, or the boundary between the roles of the conscious, superconscious, and subconscious. The external boundaries, perhaps appropriate physical, mental, emotional boundaries between ourselves and others, or the boundaries between what we are responsible for and what others are responsible for. This reality contact eventually becomes so strong that we can see the ultimate reality, the truth as God created it. Kaylin, is that the footnote you wanted me to look at, or was it the other one?
Yeah, the other one is reference. Yes, also you can read the other one.
Miracle rearranges the order of perception and places the levels into their true perspective. That's our level confusion. We come back to that one over and over and over again, don't we? So miracles are examples of right thinking. Welcome back, Tyrene.
So let me jump in. The levels of confusion. We want levels of clarity. We want to be clear, and that's exactly what the other footnote mentioned, that it gives us the ability to have boundaries. So now as an architect, I will say we have a boundary between, if I'm designing an apartment, I have to have a special firewall between my unit where I'm living and the unit next door. But I also have the same kind of boundary between my ceiling and which is just under the floor of the unit above me. So these are the boundaries. I'm in my room. I have a boundary in one dimension here, just in terms of what's to the left of me, the right of me, and so on. Then I have a boundary of what's above me. I have another boundary of what's below me. I have a floor, which keeps me safe from the unit below me. I even have windows also, so that's a boundary from inside to where it may be raining outside. Boundaries are very important to knowledge that keep us safe. And Jesus comes to explain to us where we need to place boundaries, and that we are not capable of just saying, okay, everybody on the planet will now be well. It ain't going to work that way. We might want it, we might like it, but that's not within our purview. But we can do it with the people that we are in contact with. So boundaries becomes more important here, and I like it, and especially as an architect, it makes a lot of sense.
Well, who's thrilled as I am that boundaries is mentioned in A Course in Miracles?
No, yeah, as much as you, George, no question about it.
I am so thrilled that this popped up in the Purple Book, because there is no hint to boundaries in prior or other versions that I've read anyway. And I can't tell you how many times I've discussed in rooms and argued in rooms and debated in rooms that boundaries are perfectly okay. And we do need healthy boundaries. And but unfortunately, there's an interpretation of the Course when you start to get into there are no others and there's only you, that we want to eliminate healthy boundaries. So the term correct delineation of intrapersonal and interpersonal boundaries, when I read that, I almost fell off my chair. I'm so excited that that's in there.
Just happy to give you a thrill today, George.
Well, I know what it's like living without boundaries, and it's certainly no cakewalk either. So it's definitely nice to know that it's okay to stop turning the other cheek after a couple of months worth of just getting slapped around.
And also, the difference, if I can just use this as an example, in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm not an official member, but in Alcoholics Anonymous, it basically existed.
Bob, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. Is there a way for you to speak louder?
Certainly.
Are you closer to the microphone? Because
Yeah.
I hate that I'm missing your words.
No, it's all right. Papa, this is all going through the telephone. So pick the telephone up and use it like a microphone, okay?
Got it. So in Alcoholics Anonymous, the purpose of it is that the person who knows he's got a serious problem with alcohol, he's got to stop. And that's what he's about. And he doesn't really care that much about boundaries. And it's not even as important. But it is important to another person who is connected to him in any way, whether it's matrimony or familial, family, or whatever. That's the person who really has to look at his boundaries. He's kind of okay, at least when it comes to alcohol, let's say, but he sure has to create a boundary at times to not be hurt by the person who is out of control. And so it's kind of a secondary thing, I believe, in the growth of spiritual understanding. In some cases, the first thing is to stop us from being a mad tiger, destroying everything in our purview spiritually. And then the second thing is to protect us from other people who are out of control. So that's where the boundaries become extremely important. And I couldn't agree with you more, George. The understanding of having boundaries around us is, in my life, was late to coming. And I was more open to just about everything is wonderful. And you say that to someone who it's just not wonderful, and you better duck because you don't know what's going to come at you next. Boundaries are important. I agree completely. And I am also very happy that it's being discussed and said so clearly. And I hope everybody just heard what I was able to say. So I guess you did.
Well, I can hear you.
I'm curious what Lilia has to say on boundaries, because
Yeah,
of her
me too.
experience and her profession.
Me too. She might
Good,
be
I wanted
busy.
to ask her too.
If you're there.
Yeah, if you're there and you can spare some lunchtime, I would love to know what you think about that. Be quiet.
Sorry, I was absent for what's the question again?
Oh, that's okay. Let me read this for you, and I'll tell you, and I think it'll become obvious right away why we're asking. It's Miracle Principle 36. Miracles are examples of right thinking. Through miracles, reality contact at all levels becomes strong and accurate, thus permitting correct delineation of intrapersonal and interpersonal boundaries. As a result, the doer sees the truth as God created it. And this is what's meant by the principle on perspective adjustment. And so George has, just like I have, come into contact with a lot of people who refer back to Jesus turning the other cheek and getting hit over and over and over again, and no boundaries, because you got to love, 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 and you always forgive, forgive, forgive. And so this is a little bit for me, a little bit of a chance for me to pump my own brakes in terms of I tend to really let people walk all over me. And we really wanted to know kind of where you landed with this thought. And there's a deeper footnote if you want me to read more.
No, it's enough. It's a really good question. And, like boundaries are really, really important so we can stay clear. So with ourselves, like to put boundaries, it doesn't mean to separate yourself. You still stay connected, but first of all, you stay connected with yourself, and then with other. This is what is meant by interpersonal and, and if you have a good connection with yourself, you can have a good connection with others. And the boundaries are there to protect yourself, even unconditional love, even universal love, the love of Jesus, needs a boundaries. If you don't have that, you can't experience it, you can't give it, and we don't need to mix the boundaries as separations, but you have to love, and you have to turn another cheek is a good principle. But as you say, you don't need to be a spiritual math to the universe. Like there is a things that you can say, well, it doesn't work for me, and you can just extract yourself from situation, from things, because you're following your boundaries. I can go here but not further. It is important in this dimension where we live as a human to know where I end and where you begin. We are connected, we are one, but this transition, it has to be conscious, otherwise it's, you come to codependencies, to projections, to constructions that you can't really be in handy of you. That's what I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So codependency, what happens to boundaries when you're being codependent? How does that happen?
This happening, well, by codependency, none of the boundaries of the people were respected. You know, so I will come into your space, into your mind, and I want to control. It's a question of control, you know.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and when we believe in God and when we are one, there is no control. We can't control anything. This is an illusion. The feeling of control is an illusion. And if we don't respect the boundaries of the other, and we think that we can control anything and everything, it's an illusion.
So that boundary line has to be fluid. We have to be able to, at sometimes extend it towards another person, and sometimes we have to pull it. We have to be, well, let me say it differently. We can break the boundaries a little bit as we begin to love another person a little bit more. But at some point, we may have to repair that boundary and make sure that we're not being messed with, because we let that boundary left it open too long. Maybe it's like a fence between two neighbors. You can leave the door open, but if it lets the dog in from your neighbor into your property and he's a dangerous dog, then that's not good either. Do I have to talk louder, George? Is that what you're saying? Okay. Or is that thumbs up? I didn't catch
no,
your
George,
reading.
make sure you turn your volume up on your. Yeah.
I can't hear George.
Well, it's okay.
Oh, he's silent. Okay.
Yeah, he's miming.
All right, I think I got what you're saying. The idea of the fence and the neighbor is it's okay to have a fence. Everybody agrees with that. But if you leave the gate open and the neighbor's dog comes into your property and kills something, for example, that's not good. So the boundaries sometimes have to be tightened up, sometimes can be loosened. That's what I'm getting.
Yeah, Bob, and it's like the construct of the middle. Some people think that middle is a straight line. The middle is a dance. Sometimes you come a couple of steps forwards, sometimes you go backwards. And it could be the middle. And it's like this is with boundaries. Like your boundaries. If you're willing to, you can extend them. If you're not, you don't have to. And many people are feeling bad about setting boundaries, but boundaries are useful for us, and especially in the dimension where we live. We are humans. We are still humans in this life, And in this human experience, we need the boundaries because we humans, we have egos, like if we all just live from our spiritual being, maybe you won't need them, but that's not the case in our dimension. So
it's been very helpful to me. Thank you, Olivia.
May I offer a perspective?
Yeah, thanks, Nuan. Please.
Thanks for letting me on the speaking area. I personally, the way I look at boundaries is they're a temporary, useful fiction. I wonder even if boundaries are as useful an illusion as forgiveness is, because I believe, as the Course says, forgiveness is kind of a healing of a hurt that never occurred. So perhaps we can use boundaries in the same kind of lyrical, kind of plot device kind of way, without ascribing to them dogmas of physical metaphor, because, they're not physical objects. Kind of a light touch on the boundaries, while still implementing them as functional, plot devices in our lives.
Yeah, I think that was a beautiful way to explain it, actually. We tend to forget that the Course is completely psychological, is completely non-physical. And when we're talking about boundaries, certainly we can always go to the physical boundaries as metaphor to help learn the concept. But setting healthy boundaries is a completely psychological, mostly psychological anyway. Certainly it becomes more clear when we're dealing with physical violence, right? I guess I go to my experience, with the court system. If you hit somebody, it's easy to see. But if you abuse somebody mentally, the courts have a real hard time seeing that at all. But us as spiritual people and studying this spiritual psychology can understand that these boundaries can be invisible, but still be strong and still be there. But yes, obviously we're dealing in the realm of, forgiveness. It's a useful tool while we're in this shared physical reality.
In my personal way of looking at things geometrically, it's kind of like on a floor plan that I might be drawing. If I had just a single line between you and me, it's very different than if I have a dashed line between you and me. So the line is understood, but it still has ways to penetrate. And I think that's what we're all saying. And Lilia, I love the way you said it's a dance. it really is a dance. Sometimes the other person gets to be the point around which somebody rotates. I'm not saying this very well. And sometimes you're the one who's rotating. So it's going back and forth. And that's the way I think it's meant to be, that we never completely isolate ourselves, but we never completely enmesh ourselves in other people. And I think this is what I'm getting from this discussion of boundaries, which I think is extremely helpful. And I'm very thankful for all the people who have spoken up in this particular matter. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, I feel like this is pretty miraculous. We've ended up here at 7:30, which is an hour in. Can't tell you guys how much I appreciate you all for showing up and at least having a couple of talks about this. This boundary setting is really important for me. I spent a lot of time tearing them down, and then I was worried that I might have torn them down a little bit too much. And then I got hurt and realized I did tear them down too much. And now I can be a little bit more careful. So steering the ship. Thanks for the feedback, everybody.
You want to read another miracle?
Sure.
Thank you, guys. And I need to leave because I have a client, but thank you very much.
Thank you for being with us.
Well, see you. Lee, you will just set the event,
yes,
and I'll see you
Tuesday.
at the next one.
Definitely.
And I have a wonderful time with your family reunion.
Can't wait to tell you how wonderful it is.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, and welcome, Marcella. How are you?
Lilia leaves, Marcella comes in. It's like
it is. It's perfect.
Welcome, Marcella. Lilia just left because she had another
client.
It's because we're on the half hour, and that's perfect.
All right.
Perfect.
On to 37. I'm on page 27 of the Purple Book, A Course in Miracles. Miracle Principle 37 is: a miracle is a correction factor introduced into false thinking by me. It acts as a catalyst, shaking up erroneous perception and snapping it into place. This is the same one in the Blue Book, I think, but the Purple Book goes on to say, this correction factor places you under the atonement principle, where your perception is healed. Until this has occurred, perception of the divine order is impossible. True depth perception becomes possible only at the highest order of perceptual integration.
Wow.
This really excites me because, we're talking, this is where it's clear that Jesus is talking about healthy psychology and that we should be shooting to be healthy human beings, individuals in bodies in this world. And we're not jumping into some metaphysical area where everything's perfect and everything's one and everything's love. It's good to know that stuff, but it's good to see Jesus stressing this is about living a healthy, happy life. So that balance to me has been so important. And that's why this Purple Book to me has been so important, because I always got those impressions from the Blue Book. But then when I joined online and started to hear how many interpreted the Blue Book coming from, this metaphysical end only, it seemed like we lost the balance of, being healthy and happy here, also in the happy dream.
Our abstract text cannot be questioned. Sorry.
What can't be questioned, Lee? What did you say there?
Our abstract text. It's like, for me, the third edition is kind of, they edited it to the point where it's like a Bible and it's abstract and it's a little bit more metaphorical and lyrical and all that great stuff. And this real one helps me get grounded in reality, I think, and probably gives me a little bit more direction in my life.
Yeah, what I love is that why this Purple Book was such a gift is I studied in pretty much a vacuum for, I don't know, 20 years, 30 years, whatever. And then I got online and started to hear all these other perspectives of the course that I just could not relate to. And I felt like I was getting gaslighted. I was like, what's going on here? Have we read the same course?
I get that.
And
You were getting gaslighted.
yeah, and it became, that's why this, level of clarity, Bob, and that's however, we'll forever be connected, that, I was searching for a term and then you came up with the level of clarity as the opposite of level confusion, because it seems to be a missing link and a cause of great conflict in our society. Because you start to look at level confusion about masks and about vaccines and about, all these other topics.
What is the truth?
Yeah, I think it's getting our levels correct and getting our interpersonal and intrapersonal boundaries correct is part of this course.
It's part of this course, and guess what? It's the basic principle, because sentence 2 says, this correction factor places you, that means us, under the at-one-ment principle where your perception is healed. Perception is healed is another word for level clarity. When we heal our perception, that's level clarity. That's clarity on what's really happening here, instead of what we think ought to be happening here or should be happening here. It's really about finding out what is really happening. And when we do understand what is really happening, we can better deal with it. If we think it's awful, oh my God, we got to run out of there and get away from it, we're probably missing some stuff, because there's something about it which just, it was at a different level. Lee, looks like you were going to say something.
Yeah, check the footnotes. It's
sure, yeah. I got the footnote up right now. So this is at the very end of that paragraph, and it says, this sentence involves the reinterpretation of two different conventional terms. Perceptual integration normally refers to the organizing and integrating of different sensory stimuli. Here, however, it refers to the organizing and integrating of our perception of those stimuli, i.e., our interpretations, our thoughts. Only when this integration has taken place can we achieve true depth perception. This is clearly not visual depth perception, but a perception of reality at depth, perception of the divine order. And that's referred to in the text. A similar remark in the dictation for chapter 4 treats seeing the longer range, a concept related to depth perception, as symbolic experiencing knowledge.
There it goes again. Same thing, George, right? This is saying the same thing. Now that we've broken the lock into an understanding of depth perception, isn't that the same thing? It's understanding, oh, this is down at this level, that's up there at that level. Understanding that is what puts all of this together for us. And in fact, we get a bigger picture of life, because there's more to this life than what we were seeing. And I really think that a lot of people who have one political viewpoint, which I don't have to describe here, they just don't have a whole, they just don't have a lot of depth perception. They don't see everything, because they're not looking at what's above what they're thinking and what's below what they're thinking. And those of us who have been blessed to travel somewhat, meet a lot of people, be open to different ways of spiritual conversation, we can see a lot of stuff that belongs up there at that level or belongs down here at this level. And it's all good, but we have to know where it is that's good, so we don't get stuck in the wrong place. All of this is what Jesus comes here to give us. It says this correction factor places us under the atonement principle where your perception is healed. Now you are all one, But some stuff is up there, some stuff is down there. And it keeps us protected. It's in one zone of our life, we're protected physically. Yes. And in another, we're protected spiritually. It's really amazing when we look at it this way and get so much more out of what these principles are. So I'm thrilled that we're on the right track, and it looks like Lee and George, for those of you who can't see what they're doing on the Zoom session, where Lee is giving me thumbs up and George is saying go down over here.
It's
and
okay. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Thank
it's all good.
Nobody cares. Okay. Hey, Marcella. All right. Back to you, Lee.
I just want. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Please, George.
Oh, sure. I love posting those cartoons online with, for example, someone's drowning and someone's giving them spiritual advice, or, the person that's burning at the stake and a person is saying, oh, why don't you join
Focus on the positive here. Yeah.
So the level of confusion is easily seen in those types of cartoons where it's like, you don't walk into a funeral and start saying death is not real. So the spiritual life is definitely an art form. There's no doubt about it. And there's a time, that's why I sing, quote unquote, this song all the time, to everything turn, turn, turn. Because there's a season to speak metaphysically. There's a season to speak in very clear psychological and healthy boundary terms. There's a time for it all, and becoming one-sided metaphysical, or what I would call a metaphysical bias, I don't think it's a healthy way to live. So I love that this boundary topic comes up in the Purple Book.
When I was a kid in college, and it was right after I had a profound spiritual experience. The first class project I had to design was a zoo, and what I designed was a big spiraling building, and there were only 5 exits from it as you spiral up this particular building, and each one was a different, I think Genesis is the right term to use here. The idea being, this is where the reptiles are. Okay, I'm coming out at this level. And you keep going on your spiral, come back into the spiral, and now you're going to go out at the fish level or whatever. And the fish is actually at the bottom. Then come the reptiles, then come the amphibians, then come the birds, and they can fly. But then after that comes mankind, and they can go much higher because we're looking at the whole thing as a spiritually evolving thing. And my expression of that building was evolution, that we can continue to spiral higher. If we're not evolving, we're stuck in one level of perception, and that's all there is. And if that's all there is, anybody who's not here, he don't agree with me, I'll have to shoot him or get him out of my way.
Yeah.
It's being able to see different levels that we all can evolve to a yet higher level. Yeah, and that was my fun of a design.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah. And, one great gift as we watch what's going on in our politics today, whichever side you're on, is it's making it so clear that, how certain behaviors, how people could make up their own reality, how people could make up whatever they feel like making up, and it's not reality. So I really think that Jesus is pointing out that there is some type of reality here, and we could find that in facts and truth. And when we start to wander from facts and truth, we're really wandering into this perceptual soup that breaks down communication, that starts chaos. Because the Course says the first principle of chaos is that the truth is different for everyone. And we have to start to agree that there is some level of fact and truth in this world. Sure. And wandering away from it can cause chaos. So that's the lesson I'm seeing here, while I'm staying detached from it and realizing it can't touch me, right? Because my reality is spirit, and none of this is going to touch me, but it's a very clear show of what the ego is capable of, making up its own reality that's not in anyone's best interest.
You got it, man. You're preaching to the choir here. That's what you got. It's all good.
I just want to
yeah, Kaylin,
reread this from what I understand. So it said here that perceptual integration normally refers to the organizing and integrating our interpretation and our thought.
Kaylin, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm having a really hard time hearing you, so I give you permission to yell at me. I also give Bob permission to act like a Shakespearean actor and project that beautiful voice.
Okay. Yeah, I'm keeping the microphone closer. So I'm going to repeat. So it said here, the perceptual integration normally refers to the organizing and integrating our interpretation and our thoughts. So like doing cleaning in our interpretation, to referring to exterior wall probably, and to do some organization to our thought. And only then we can achieve true deep perception. I think here also, as Bob said, and so many times about like the boundaries. Also, we talk today. So my question would be like, how to organize our thought and interpretation. I mean, do we have some boxes where to put like this is one category, this is the second category? Do you have any ideas like what they mean when they said we need to organize our thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. We definitely get some pointers from that back in the how we set up our day part of the part of the book that's for teachers. And they do talk about kind of what we do here. So try and start out your day in a direction that gets you miracle principle focused, or let's say miracle minded, and kind of keep the cadence of asking for guidance for how can God work through me. Is that an answer that you were looking for, or did I miss the mark of what you were asking?
It's good. It's helping me. But what I wanted to try to understand, like if I'm gonna try to do like organize my thoughts, like what I should do, like in real action, like what like categories by like thoughts from the source, like from ego or from other source. I don't know. Maybe I will recognize some thoughts from ego
to differentiate.
I don't know if I would have some thought like in the middle. I cannot say which is the source of that thought, or maybe other way to categorize the thought.
So the question is, how do you know for sure when it's Jesus or the Holy Spirit guiding you, and how do you know when it's your ego? Is that what we're...
Yeah, this is one way to categorize the thoughts, but maybe there are also others way to categorize the thoughts. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I can tell you if I hear you correctly, what I think I'm hearing is sometimes my ego throws out some pretty damn good ideas, which seem like they could definitely be the Holy Spirit idea. And later on, I look back and I wonder, did I really get it right? And maybe I got it right. First of all, it's not like I hear voices in my head. Ideas arrive in kind of a fully formed way sometimes. And those that arrive and feel like a win-win, at least a win for me and a win for the other person, and hopefully a win for the entire situation. Like when it's a win-win-win, like I feel really confident that it comes from God. And when it's a shitty idea, I feel pretty confident that it comes from my ego. And maybe that's not the right way to look at the world. In fact, I'd welcome anybody to challenge it, because it hurts sometimes to think about it this way. But
Yes, this is a good way. This is a good way for like organizing the thoughts by taking into consideration the source from the ego, from the Holy Spirit. Yeah, I will try to analyze deeper. Maybe I will have some inspiration.
I welcome it.
Idea.
No, I welcome it. It's tough.
Here's another way. Sometimes, and I've used this for a long time. It's kind of like driving a car. You have to keep looking at the rear view mirror occasionally, not all the time, because if you're only looking at the rear view mirror, you're not looking ahead. So you need to be always looking ahead because the past is still an illusion. But sometimes the past enables us to see the effects of what we were thinking and teaches us better what to do the next time. So we always want to drive forward in the car. We also want to check our side mirrors. Unintended consequences also teach us that we're going in the right direction. If we weren't looking at the side mirrors, we might hit a car on the side. That would have been an unintended consequence. So we need to look at the mirrors to check out the effects of the actions and the thoughts that we're using. If we think we're being spiritual and we're screwing everybody up, which is evidenced by the mirrors, then sooner or later we're going to figure out we're probably not even on the right road. We need to be on a different road, a better road. And I think that's what the Course in Miracles is, of course. It's the course we're taking.
Of course.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely we need to think about this. Thanks.
I can tell you, Kaylin, I've definitely struggled around this idea and never wanting to get tricked by this trickster. Like, I thought about him as an enemy. I thought about him as a friend. I tried to figure out as many different ways as I could think about him. But if you struggle with all of the different kinds of ways that you can interpret the ideas that come to you as coming from the outside or coming from the inside, I guess in the end, I feel when I take a deep breath and I'm in the moment, it's just here and peaceful, and I can just take them one at a time. And I guess when I feel like I get in my head and I'm comparing the past and the present and I'm trying to judge and I'm trying to do this, that, and the next thing, it's hard for me to be in the flow and to try and get into it. I'm sorry. I thought I was trying to answer your question. I feel like I went off the rails a little bit here. So.
I just read again the 37. So actually we start from that statement that a miracle is a correction factor introduced into false thinking. So it will be like a really like profound thought or from the Holy Spirit thought, the source. Mm-hmm. When we'll to achieve that thought or to reach that thought or to have that thought, we need to do some arranging or some order in our thought, because we cannot have a thought from the Holy Spirit if our mind has so many thoughts and we have only one category, and this means also the thoughts from the Holy Spirit maybe we will try to put with the other thoughts. So we need to do some cleaning or order, not cleaning, maybe just to recognize at least a source or the right thought.
I like
also,
that.
I remember that you told us like weeks ago that our mind is like a processor, like who is working, and doesn't matter what kind of thought he will take, he will analyze and work with that thought. So if we will take in our mind, or you were talking about the mind, and if we take in our mind a really good thought as a source from the Holy Spirit, our mind will try to process, and with that thought we'll start to do some cleaning, because that will be like a small miracle in our mind, and maybe we'll reach deeper understanding.
Okay.
All good.
Yeah.
All good.
Yeah.
We're going to probably need to wrap it up a little bit. If there's anything that someone has been waiting for an opportunity to ask or to say, please join in and let us know what's on your mind. We'll be happy to entertain it. Everybody has the capability. Go ahead, Tyrone.
Hi, I just like to say that I value the wisdom, and I know that I'm not always verbal in the talks, but that's because I am on a shift doing some work, and so sometimes I like to participate in more of a podcast type of just hearing the wisdom. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, but I'm definitely thankful for all of the wisdom in this room.
Right on. Thank you. I'm glad you're here too, man. I am. I'm glad. I hope it's a kind of a sustaining thing. And I guess it feels good just to show up. So, yeah, we're going to get busy. It's about 8:00 over here. I did finally figure out how to kind of get music queued up and playing, and it's a good way to end it too. So I'm going to play this on out for at least part of this. We're just wrapping up. We're almost finished here. Let me just stop this over here and